Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of New York Bass, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about what you need to know about chatterbait fishing and pretty much what you need to get started. Okay, so chatterbait fishing has become mine and Luke's, well, one of our favorite techniques ever the past season and maybe half of the last season. Well, first of all, chatterbaits are very versatile baits. I mean, you can slow roll chatterbaits, which we did pretty much all last summer, or I did up north fishing Black Lake up near St. Lawrence through grass for big largemouth, and you're fishing grassy, rocky points or just shoals or anything with grass and rocks, slow rolling chatterbaits over top of that grass, ripping it through the grass, and slow rolling over the rock, really killing smallmouth too. Um, and you can fish chatterbaits like that. Early in the year, you can fish them a little bit faster, like you're imitating a bluegill, and you're gonna fish that bait faster over the grass or emerging grass, and on points, openings of creek channels or uh, mouths of coves where they're gonna spawning creeks and all that. Spawning flats, great for spawning flats when they move up in the spring. And of course, when they move up to feed in the fall, you're gonna be imitating that bluegill, or maybe even crawfish or something, and you're gonna be catching all those feeding fish in the fall. So chatterbait's something I use year round, so I figure it's an important bait to me and maybe to some of you guys, and some of you guys may think it's a gimmick, may not have tried it yet, so I'm going to tell you what you guys need to get started. Okay, so let's just get started with the bait here. A chatterbait is, which most of you watching probably know, it's pretty much a swim jig, but it has a bill like this on it, like a blade, like a coffin-shaped blade they call it, and this is the original Z-Man chatterbait, pretty much all I use. And this bait is pretty much a bluegill imitator, and what it does in the water is this blade pushes water and it wobbles like this, and it makes the jig move like this. So it's basically a wobbling jig, and it puts off vibration. So let's talk about different colors that are really good for the chatterbait. Most of the time you're going to be imitating bluegill or baitfish. I mean, usually bluegill here in the north and everywhere. I mean, you're imitating bluegill a lot of times when you're fishing. So you're going to be using a bait that obviously imitates a bluegill. Colors that would imitate a bluegill are black and blues and green pumpkins. I mean, other colors will imitate bluegill and stuff too, but these are probably the best, most natural, even in dirty water. In dirty water, you could go with the black and blue because they can see it better in darker water. In a little bit cleaner water, you can go with the natural bluegill color like this Killer Custom Jig skirt on here that we made ourselves, if you're interested. But and you can use that in a little bit clearer water. And if the water is real muddy, or maybe even you're in a situation where you're not imitating a bluegill, you can go with something and like you're imitating shad or anything. In dirty water, chartreuse and white, or just a chartreuse would work great for that. So, all right, now let's talk about weights. So when you're fishing in grass or you're fishing at pretty close surface, you're gonna want to stick with a quarter-ounce chatterbait, maybe a 3/8 ounce. Depends on the rod you're using, the line you're using. If you're using heavier diameter line, you can go with a 3/8. If you're using lighter diameter line, you can go with a quarter-ounce. Either will work fine. But if you're slow rolling that bait, you're really going to want to stick to a 3/8 half ounce or half ounce, because you're going to want to keep that bait down and still be able to get a pretty steady retrieve without that bait lifting in the water. So now that we've talked about that, let's talk about blade colors. All the blades I run after the season realize that gold and silver are a waste of time for me, because what I do is imitate bluegill, and I just color my blades black, or I buy them already black, like these chatterbaits here, with blades that are already black. But when you're imitating shad or even bluegill. I mean, when you're imitating bluegill, a gold will work fine, or maybe even golden shiner. You can use a gold blade. A gold blade would be a little bit better in stained water, I'd say. Give it a little bit of flash if you're looking for flash. Smallmouth fishing gold's great too. I'd only go with the silver in either really clear water or water where you're gonna be imitating a shiner or any kind of shad that is silver. Now that we've talked about the bait, let's start talking about the trailer. You don't have to use a trailer. Most of the Z-Man chatterbaits come with a trailer in the package, but you're gonna get a lot more bites if you spice up your trailer a little bit. Get a different trailer. You're gonna want two different kind of trailers. Okay. Here, this is a Zoom Super Fluke, and this bait has a style boot tail on it, like a smaller style boot tail with the bait. See, as you can see here, smaller style boot tail. It does not give off as much action, but it also works really good. Now I'm going to use this kind of trailer when I'm fishing the bait faster. It's a little more aerodynamic and it moves a little bit faster. It doesn't move as much water, but it's got just enough action to really help your chatterbait look alive. When you're fishing that chatterbait slower, or you're fishing for bigger fish, you're going to want to go with a trailer like this with a big boot tail, such as a Kitech, or in this case a Berkeley Rib Shad, which I can't wait to try this year because it looks like a cheap alternative to the Kitech. You're going to want to use this boot tail when fishing it slower because it's giving it a way bigger wobble. It's going to give it a bigger presentation. So if you're fishing for bigger fish and you're fishing that bait slower, go with this kind of trailer. Now when you're fishing a trailer, you're usually going to trim it down. I'd say trim it down to about 3 inches. This is a 4.5 inch bait, and I'm going to trim it about right there when I thread it on. And this right here, this zoom, I believe this is a straight up 4.5 inch bait also. And you're going to want to trim that back down to about 3 inches or 3.5 inches. You're not going to want that bait to be sticking out too far. You're not going to want to oversize your presentation. So I'd trim down that trailer to about 3 inches, 3.5. Depends on the bite. If you're short striking it with a bigger trailer, trim it down, get a little shorter trailer. Or if you're catching too many small fish, put a bigger trailer on there. Alright, now let's get to my favorite part. Now that you guys know how to set up your chatterbait, now you know what weights to use, you know what colors you have to use, and you know what trailers you have to use or whatever, you're going to want to choose the right rod. Now, some of you guys watching this video may not have a lot of rods and reels. I mean, I don't consider myself to have lots of rods and reels, but I consider myself to have enough. So, I mean, I have a few different choices I can do to use a chatterbait, and there's pretty generic style rods you can use a chatterbait on, I guess you could say. Not generic, but common. See, right here, this is a 7-foot medium action rod. This is a 7-foot medium action Veritas. Now, 7-foot medium action rod is going to be a great rod for using chatterbaits because, well, I mean, it depends what one you have. But when you're choosing a rod, you're going to want to look for, I'd say, a softer tip. A rod with a tip with about 20% bend. Okay, so what that means is a rod like this one right here. I'll show you right now. A rod like this one right here. As you can see, up at the top of the rod. It bends just at the top. See how it bends just a little bit, but it stops as you get in the backbone? Alright, when I mean 20%, I mean about the top 20% of the rod bends easy. And that's what I'm saying, as I just showed you right there. Now that'll allow that bait to allow you to set the hook and fight that fish on this bait. And you're going to get a better hook set. And this is another 7-foot medium action rod, or a 7-foot medium heavy, that has a parabolic action, which means the tip bends a little farther down, but it's pretty strong. And when the tip bends, it points right back at you pretty much, which means that, which allows the same thing. Like I said, the fish to get the chatterbait in its mouth, and for you to get a good hook set. Now, my favorite rod to use would be a straight up spinnerbait rod. Those two rods were a 7-foot medium and a 7-foot medium heavy action rod. So that's gonna work great for you guys. And that'll be just enough for chatterbaits. I mean, you don't need something special. But if you're looking for one rod to throw chatterbaits or spinnerbaits on, you're gonna want to go with something that's in between. I'd say, in my opinion, 6'6" and 7 foot, with a soft tip like this right here. So this, I mean, I'm bending the rod. I mean, I don't suggest bending the rods like this because it's bad for them. You could break them. But something with a soft tip like this Denali covert rod, but with a strong backbone. As you can see, I'm bending it down here to about the, what is this? This is the 7th eye up right here, and it barely bends. That's what I call backbone, and that's what you're going to need to get a good hook set on that fish. You're going to have the soft tip to allow them to get the bait, then you're going to have the strong hook set to pull them out of the cover you're fishing, or just to fight that fish more effectively. Now, when you're talking about reels, you really want to go with a 6'4" or up. I mean, a 5.4 to 1 or a slower gear ratio would work, but it won't work as well, and that's just my opinion, because you're not going to be able to fish that bait faster. At least with a 6'4", you're at a pretty versatile range, and you can slow that bait down, and you can speed that bait up with a 6.4 to 1 or a 6.3 or anything in that range. And then with a 7.1 to 1 or higher, or a little bit higher, or a little bit lower, you can really control that bait too. You can fish it faster. You can control it with a reel, since you don't need a lot of winching power for the baits. So when you're talking about reels, anything between a 6.4 to 1 to a 7.1 to 1 is fine. A 5.4 will work. Okay, so reels not that important, but I mean, you still want something that's going to work good for you and be reliable. Something that you're going to be able to cast all day, because chatterbait's going to be a bait you might end up fishing all day. But now when we're talking line is really important when fishing a chatterbait. Some people like to use mono. In my opinion, I say stay away from monofilament because there's a lot of stretch and you might miss a lot of fish. But if you like mono, go for it. I really suggest anything in between 14 to 20 pound fluorocarbon because it's strong line. It doesn't have a ton of stretch. It has a little bit of give, and you're gonna be able so you can get a good hook set on that fish and you'll fight it good. Or go with anything anywhere from 20 to 30 pound braid. Now braid's good too because you can feel everything. You get a hook set on that fish and you fight it good. You're really gonna want a stiffer line in my opinion. Mono's not gonna get you a good enough hook set. You're not gonna have enough feel. And I don't think you're gonna. I mean, you need to feel that blade chatter, so you're gonna want something stiffer like fluorocarbon or braid. And you're gonna want to feel everything it hits down there on the bottom. So I stick with fluorocarbon or braid. In between 14 to 20 pound fluoro and 20 to 30 pound braid. Guys, that's really about it. We're talking about chatterbaits. I know there's a lot of information. I mean, it's an 11-minute video, it looks like, but it's a lot of information for 11 minutes. I talked really fast. Rewind the video, go to parts that you really think you want to hear again. I hope I helped you out. I don't want to misinform you. This is what I use for chatterbait and what I think is the best. Some people may have other opinions, but really, it's really key that you can start with all this stuff I told you, and then find your way from there. Figure out what you like from there. So this stuff I'm telling you is not stuff that you have to do to catch fish on a chatterbait. It's just stuff that you could start out with, get a feel for, or just stuff. You know what I mean? Just to start out fishing a chatterbait, and then you can make your own opinions from there. So guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And this is where I'm going to be making videos from now on for my house. Because, I mean, you don't have to see my face. There's no point. You can see me talking with my hands because I do that a lot or whatever. And it really demonstrates what I have laid out. And I can show you what's going on here. For most videos from home, this is where I'm going to be doing them. Thanks for watching, guys.